Good morning and welcome. My name's Dale Hartnett. I teach in the communication department here at the college, and the program that we're going to have for the next hour is entitled Finding Untold Stories, and it's the story of our January service learning trip to Memphis. All of you and all of the family and friends and alumni, and especially our friends in Memphis who are joining us via the webcast streaming. Memphis is a city that is rich in history. Much of that history has been lost over time. And that phenomenon is not unique to Memphis. But Memphis, in many ways, is a wonderful place to learn about that principle. We discovered what we call Untold Stories during our trip to Memphis back in January. During the sessions, members of the protest and public opinion class will share their untold stories that they uncovered during the service learning trip. The group will explore what they learned about the civil rights movement, about the Zion Cemetery Project, and we'll use video, we've used journalism articles, personal reflections, and individual class members will reflect on how this service learning experience affected their learning, their personal growth, and their aspirations for the future. A little background: this project was a joint effort of the Division of Academic Affairs and the Division of Enrollment Management and Student Affairs. And it was really the college at Brockport's first service learning trip that ventured far from home. Before we get very deeply into it, I should define what we mean by service learning. Service learning has three components. First of all, there's an academic experience. In our case, it was a classroom activity. Second, students perform service that are related to the academic goals of the class. And thirdly, and this is an important one that's sometimes left out, students reflect on that experience. The way we put this together, we used our protest and public opinion class, which is part of our general education program, and it deals with the rhetoric of persuasion in protest movements. We tweaked the course a little bit, tailoring it to use the civil rights movement as a case study. We spent 8 days in the classroom in Brockport, 6 before we left and 2 after we got back. We spent a total of 9 days and 8 nights in Memphis. We stayed in a youth hostel in group quarters. We cooked for ourselves much of the time. We were also hosted by the Mount Vernon Baptist Church Westwood in Memphis. They were wonderful hosts at showing us the city and its very, very rich history. While in Memphis, we visited landmarks. We met with people who were involved in the civil rights movement. We also added a volunteer component at the Zion Cemetery. The Zion Cemetery is a black cemetery founded in 1876. It's been abandoned since about 1970. It's been overgrown. It's been trashed. And 1 acre of it's even been bulldozed. Along the way, we learned, we worked, we played, we grew as a team, and we morphed from being a class into being a learning community. And as an instructor, that is one of the most moving experiences I've ever witnessed. And we also discovered many untold stories. Our first presenter is Mike Nutting. Mike is a junior who hails from Fairport. He's a communication major. He's in our media production track in the communication major. He went on the trip to document our activities via video. Mike is an award-winning student. Just last night, he was honored by the Rochester Audio Visual Association at the RAVA dinner for his work on media production here at Brockport. And he has a paid internship coming up next fall with Southwest Airlines in Dallas, and if we have time, that in itself is a story. After Brockport, he wants to pursue work in media production. Please welcome Mike Nutting.
As Dale said, I went on the trip to document it, and I made a little film documentary. Right now it's a work in progress, so what I'm going to show you is not the final piece, but it's going to be one heck of a piece when it's done.
The overall goal was to have a course that would have a service learning component. And we took one of our general education courses, Protest and Public Opinion, which deals with the theory of persuasion in a protest forum. And we dealt with that for 6 days here at Brockport. And then we went on the road. We went to Memphis to see the landmarks of the civil rights movement and to meet people who were involved with the civil rights movement.
We're all here getting ready to go. I'm very excited, hoping everything goes very well, very smooth on our flight. We'll be arriving close to midnight, so hopefully we'll get there, get all settled in, and have an amazing experience. We have a great host from Mount Vernon Church. She's going to be helping us along the way and figure out all the bumps with the weather and everything that we'll be doing. So pretty soon we'll have some more updates.
We met people who were involved in the sanitation workers' strike as advocates. We met a woman who had been at Martin Luther King's final speech at the Mason Temple. We met people who showed us key landmarks around Memphis. And that was one part of it. That was the academic side.
And in 1963, when the invitation came to Memphis that we would join Dr. King in his first march on Washington, called the Prayer Pilgrimage, I was fortunate that as a young pastor in the city of Memphis, my church raised enough money to buy my ticket and let me fly to Washington, D.C. and join Dr. King for the first time in what has become known as the world's greatest civil rights struggles in the history of our nation. I got tired having walked all the way around the lake and having to put up the chairs. I sat down on the back of the stage on the floor. And that's where I was sitting when Dr. Martin Luther King made his famous "I Have a Dream" speech. Little did I know that I had become involved in one of the greatest moments in history, sitting in the back of him where I could not even see him face to face, but I was there.
Hattie Thompson witnessed Dr. King deliver his final speech, "I've Been to the Mountaintop," and spoke about the emotions she felt the night before Dr. King was killed.
To our amazement, it started to storm, thunder and lightning. Dr. King was a little bit late, and we were wondering, well, will he make it? Will he come? Is he coming? So finally he came through a side door, and as he walked in, the lightning just flashed and the room lit up in a glow with him walking in. And we looked at him, and my friend said, wow, he looks a little different. The expression on his face was, I'm here to try to help you, but there's something else, going on that we could feel. So as he approached the podium to address the audience, he started to speak, and he told us that he had been to the mountaintop and that he had looked over into the promised land. And he said that, I'm not leery of any man. He told us that he knew that there had been threats, but he was not afraid because he had been to the mountaintop. And I'm sure that God has talked to him, because he would not have put his life on the line to go to different cities and to come to Memphis even after he had been threatened to come here.
The other side was the service side, where we were doing work in the Zion Cemetery, a cemetery founded in 1876 by former slaves, 23,000 documented graves, maybe 10,000 more in a 16-acre plot. Had its last active burial in the 1930s, ran out of money, became overgrown, was vandalized, trash dumped in there, and even 1 acre of it was bulldozed. And that's where the magic happened. Because what happened was that students, as they began working on the cemetery, began asking themselves questions. And they became engrossed in the topic. They began to follow up on information from headstones. And what happened in the whole experience is it morphed from being a class to being a learning community.
I'm in Memphis right now to help with the service learning project. We are going to Mount Zion Cemetery, and we're going to help renovate the cemetery and at the same time study protest and rhetoric in the South.
When we originally got to Zion Cemetery, I was absolutely mortified by what I saw. I felt like the pictures that we had seen did not explain in depth what really had happened at the cemetery. The pictures just did not describe what we saw in person. And when I got there, there was that big open space that Dale had explained that had been bulldozed. But as you went farther back, it was just brush and thistles and thatches on top of trees and vinca vines and that Japanese vine that was taking over the cemetery. It was terrible. But when we left, we had cleared an awesome amount of space. I wish we were able to clear more, but that's another trip.
We're here at the Zion Christian Cemetery, just digging out some graves and trying to clear as much as we can.
Right now I'm by the Henderson gravesite in Memphis, Tennessee at Zion Cemetery. This is the side of Reverend M. Henderson, and then on the opposite side is his wife, Julia. Well, we kind of just stumbled across it, the girl and the guy I was working with. And slowly we began to uncover it and saw the name and all of that, and piece by piece it led to it being the Reverend's grave, who happens to be the founder of the entire Zion Cemetery. It's obviously, if this is into your cemetery, you're such a prominent person, it's mind-blowing the fact that it was overgrown. You couldn't see it. We literally kind of just walked into it.
We got a really rich, diverse group of students. Everybody had gone through different walks of life, but at the end of the day, in that classroom and in Memphis, we all had the same objective, and that was to make as much of a difference over a 3-week span as we could before we had to come home. As far as the group dynamic, I feel like everybody's a lot closer. Due to school, we don't really talk much, but when we get together, you're always sure to hear us laughing or reminiscing about something that we did in Memphis.
I think many people have said that nobody came back from this trip unchanged. Everybody was changed. And it happened amazingly fast in an amazingly short period of time. I would hope that people remember the joy that they had when they were learning for the sake of learning, when they were setting their own agenda on what they wanted to learn, and they kept pursuing. I think it may show up in a lot of ways. Some people may go back to Memphis. Other people may take on service as part of their life in a way they hadn't considered before. We have people who are going to be taking the grants writing class that hadn't even considered it before. In effect, I'm hoping they take charge of their education.
Thank you, Mike.